Tonight, we're going to talk about the principle of the character and the actor. The character and the actor, right? So, as Shakespeare would say, all the world's a stage and we are merely players, right? All the world is a stage and we are merely players, right? So actor, character, stage, get it? And we're talking about Times Square and Angela Lansbury right now. So this principle or this analogy, I would say it's an analogy, is something that can start to shift things around. Maybe. I'm not sure. Could be. So let's talk about illusion and let's talk about the separated self and let's talk about how we walk through life. Okay? So let's break this down. So, and if you don't know, I was a trained actor. I made my living as an actor for a very long time. I don't really do it. I do it for fun now, but I don't do it as a living for a living. But as an actor, I would walk into a play. I would get a job, and this is the character you're going to play, and this is what you're going to do, and this is how what's going to happen. But it's me being somebody else, obviously. So I have to know how they talk. I have to know how they walk, and I have to know what their history is. I have to know what their beliefs are. I have to know how they perceive things. I have to know what their trauma is. I have to know their dreams. I have to know their desires. I have to know their fears. I have to know a lot of details about their story, about where they come from, who their parents were, what kind of people they hang out with, how much money they make. So there's a lot into a character, right? So there is me, the actor, as Max. Let's say I get a role as, it just came up. When I was a kid, I played Puck quite a few times when I was a kid in Midsummer Night's Dream, since we're on Shakespeare. So Puck is a very specific character, First of all, he is a wood nymph, and he's not even a human, but he is magical, and he's got a lot of different things going on that's very different than me. Obviously, I'm a human. I'm not a wood nymph. And so I would have to look at how he would move, I did a production where I had to be climbing up in trees and the whole thing, right? So on your spiritual journey, or whatever you want to call it, you are continually, you're trying to, how do I say this? I want to say this very clearly. There's an actor and then there's the character, right? So the character is the character that you have created in your life, right? That's the circumstances of everything. Where you come from, what language you speak, what you look like, how you dress, all that stuff. That's the character. Now, what happens in the dream state, in the separated self, is that we begin to believe we are the character. We begin to believe we are the character, right? The world is constantly looking at you and helping you to develop your character, There's nothing wrong with any of this. And I have to always say that because there is nothing wrong with anything. There's no right and there's no wrong. So this is how it works. You are born, and then very soon you're immediately assigned. You're a boy, you're a girl, right? You're one of 3 children. You're at this socioeconomic level, whatever happens to be. So that character, we become, we think that that's us, right? So we operate as if we were the character. But in truth, you're really the actor. You're really the actor. Now, this has many, many levels to it. And if you start to really understand this, and you don't even understand this, it starts to become, you resonate with what's going on here. You start to realize you're not who you think you are. Remember I said I was a Course in Miracles teacher and student. One of the things in the Course in Miracles that comes up, and it comes up in a lot of other spiritual paths, is to discover or to remember the truth of who you really are. You are the actor. Now, the world, I'll say it again, is constantly helping you to concretize that you are the character. That is not who you are. But most of the time, you don't really know who you are. Now, this is where it gets kind of insane, because the character is trying to know itself, thinking that it's trying to know the actor. There's no way to know the actor. Take a deep breath. There's no way to know the actor because it's already what you are. So there's no work to try to discover the actor. And here is where it gets sticky. And here lies the rub, is that we're trying to know the actor, but you can't know the actor because you already know. You already know. So this whole spiritual journey, not always, but has a premise of trying to find out who you really are. That premise has a big flaw in it. That big flaw is that you need to try to find out who the actor is, who you really are. And the truth is, you can't not know who you are. You just have a character on top of it. And you're more identified with, it's like this. You're more identified with your clothes than the person inside. It's kind of like when people are they identify with the job they have, with the car they drive, with how much money they make, all of those things, very identified with that. And so when it comes to really knowing who they are, they don't know, because if they lose their job, if they lose the car, if they lose whatever, then they're left with this. And I actually think this is actually a very good thing. They have a crisis of consciousness. They might have a dark night of the soul. Like, who am I? If I'm not a boy, if I'm not my job, if I'm not someone on a spiritual journey, then who am I? The character freaks out. The character doesn't know what to do, because the character has been convincing you, and in the illusion, in the play that you've been in, it keeps telling you that that's what you are. That's what you are. You are your history. You are your personality. And this is a big one. You are your body. It's telling you that over and over and over and over. So having the impetus to find out who you are starts from a flawed premise, because you already know who you are. Now, I'm going to come back to A Course in Miracles, which I reference all the time, because this is a non-duality teaching, the Course in Miracles. And this is what I teach, is basically teach or share is non-duality, is that in the Course in Miracles, it says, this course cannot teach you what love is, but it can help you to remove the blocks to the presence of love. So now let's look at that. So the character doesn't need to be, you don't have to do any of this stuff, but that need is you really do want to start to strip away all of these illusions of what you think you are. And that is in a lot of really great spiritual truth paths, right? Is letting go of what you think you are, what you think you are, what you think you are. And this is in Eastern philosophy, it would be the peeling of the onion, the peeling of the onion, the peeling of the onion. I was just speaking with one of my students or people that I help, and we were talking about this idea about this person could not be the character that she was 5 years ago, And her whole life has really changed. And what she's having a problem with is expanding into something more authentic. I don't like that word, but more the actor. But in the separated self, in the world, in the illusion, her circumstances have changed. Her relationships have changed. Her money has changed. All this stuff. So it's like life, source, God is kind of pushing her to let go of a whole bunch of her old ideas about what her character was. And she's having issues with this because she can't be the same person with her friends anymore. She can't be the same person, but she's in that in-between land, in that no man's zone of like, because the fact is that she's not the same person. She's not the same character. So she's going to have to start to become and expand someone she doesn't even know yet. She has to not develop a new character. That's not what I want to say. She's her authentic self. I'll use that word. The actor is starting to become more real in the illusion, if that makes sense. Okay. Take a deep breath.